So, how about that Game of Thrones?
I
I think I'd like to start with Ben's perspective because in our previous mid-season recap, it ended with two of us firmly um, not enjoying ourselves. But Ben, you were very, very optimistic about it. So let's throw it to you off the bat. How you feeling now in the final three episodes?
I was wrong. I was so wrong on so many levels. I'm so disappointed. Overwhelmingly disappointed. Um, I still had hope at the end of episode 4. I even had an inkling that I couldn't be disappointed more at the end of episode 5. But by the end of episode 6, I just felt like my soul was pulled out through my nostrils.
See, I spoke to you after you watched episode 4, and you were still hoping.
I was.
Yeah.
I gotta love that giddy optimism.
Yeah.
you're still pushing along. You know, I mean, you were still firm, thinking, you know, there's going to be something with the Night King. Maybe Tyrion's got a big part to play in this. I think we all kind of thought that.
Yeah. We just we were just thinking normally as if we were normal writers. We were just thinking along the lines of what it should be, as opposed to not what it became.
Man, talking to you after episode 5, I've never seen or heard anybody's soul as crushed in my life. Your spirit was so broken. In contrast to how you were on that last podcast, man. You
Episode
were
3,
just-
I still love episode 3. I know now, obviously, it was the point where everything decided to take the turn.
Even in
And
retrospect, you still love
Even
episode 3.
retrospect, yeah. I mean, everything is still fixable from after episode 3. At that point, you could change those 3 further episodes, and it would still end a good show. And unfortunately, it is those final 3 episodes that I don't like. I am still happy up to season 8, episode 3. After
Mate.
that, I'm just so disappointed.
The following 3 episodes make episode 3 even worse, in my opinion, because it cements that they had no real direction with, you know, how we thought he was going to go with the Night King and stuff. It's like there was nothing more with Bran in terms of his
Yeah.
abilities and
But you-
powers.
But you got to look at that in another way, and realistically, I'm so disappointed with series 1 because I ended up watching 8 series and I got disappointed at the end. So we can look at it that way as well.
It's heartbreaking
Yeah,
from us who started with season 1. It's just, oh man, I've never seen a show fall so far from grace before in such a short space of time.
hmm
It's unreal.
it's a series that's taken 2 years to make. Any other series was almost every year, so they've had a lot longer to make less, and they fuck it up. How is that possible?
Well, I mean, to me, it'd be interesting to see, because they never really did any like post-episode press. The writers, right?
I've not
Just-
seen anything.
As far as I've seen, I mean, they want to put it out there if they weren't happy with it. I wouldn't imagine that they put it out there if they weren't happy with it.
Hmm.
I'm interested to see their perspective at this point more than anything else. I'm interested to see their perspective on things.
I think
because-
they're happy with it, which is the horrifying thing.
So what's their reaction to? I wonder what their reaction is to everybody's criticisms. Because I think
Do you think they've been blindsided by it? Do you think they thought that when they put this out, it would be received as well as the previous ones?
there was a quote from one of them. I can't remember which one. I don't even know which one's which. There's a quote from one of them a while ago where they were talking about the ending, and they were saying, we just hope that at the end of it, it's kind of like a Breaking Bad situation where people are debating. There's loads of debate, but people are debating whether it's an A or an A plus. And it's just wow, yeah, it's
Yeah.
really far off the mark. I think people are more
Really
debated
is.
it as to whether it's a D, an E, or an F.
Sometimes
was,
it doesn't
it
even
just-
get graded.
It's ended on such a sour note, hasn't it? To compare it with Breaking Bad, Breaking Bad knew how to do a character arc. That's a perfect example of it with Walter White, in terms of character progression.
Mhm.
And in this season, in terms of character progression, they've squandered so many of them. They've betrayed so many characters, and it's heartbreaking to see them, to see the people you've watched grow as people and rooted for. I've said to the both of you, the one that hurts me the most is Jamie Lannister.
Mhm.
It's just they've done Jamie so dirty. They really have.
We were even so certain on the last podcast that we're like, oh yeah, Jamie. We all agreed Jamie would be the one. Jamie will go and kill
kill her.
Cersei. Yeah. And
The more I stewed on that, the more I thought about it, the more I didn't think he would, because she's pregnant, and I just couldn't see Jamie killing his kid even to take out Cersei.
Mhm.
I thought it'd be more likely that you could kill Jamie and use Jamie, go in there disguised as Jamie, and she'd be the one to kill Cersei.
Oh god,
Yeah.
I would have hated that all the more.
I found that more likely.
Mhm. But then she would have had to kill Jamie.
Yeah,
Or
but I
Jamie
would have
must
been
had to have
happier.
died beforehand.
I would have been happier for Jamie to go out like that than to go out the way he did. Because
Well, yeah.
if he'd have gone out that way, he wouldn't have reverted another 6 seasons.
No. I'm only happy with one character, and it's not even a fucking character. It's a CGI. I'm only happy
dog,
with Drogon.
the
Drogon.
wolf. Wow.
That's the
Yeah.
only person I'm happy with.
If you have a Ghost, you got a pat. They made it all
No.
right.
I think most of them ended poorly. I think, and most of them were written poorly.
Mhm. No more so than 5.
I think Sansa as a character finished well. She's had a lot of growth throughout this whole series,
Mhm.
and she ended fairly strong, and it was pretty fitting for her.
See, I did like kind of Sansa's ending. I think that was one of the better ones. I still don't think it was great. You know, it was the best of a bad bunch.
It was fine as long as she didn't betray Jon Snow. Like, no one stood up for him.
No.
No one gave a shit. Jon. Yeah, he's a prisoner. Well, okay. Yeah,
Well-
we won't do anything about it. It's fine.
I mean, they've presumably they're still in the middle of winter. I don't actually know if winter fucked off somewhere when the White Walkers died. Presumably, winter's still a thing.
Winter was inconsistent
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
last
So-
episode.
It was
The
snowing
North-
at the end.
The North is in the grip of winter. They've just had to feed a giant army, so they've not got much food. Half of the guys are dead because the long night happened. And she decided to make the kingdom independent, which means that she severs all like aid ties. It's like, how are the North
Yeah.
even going to survive as a kingdom at this point? Doing it then and there seems like a really unintelligent thing to do. There's a quote from George R.R. Martin. It's a bit of a kind of silly quote in a sense, but he was always talking about in comparison to Tolkien. And Tolkien obviously had Aragorn become king, and you know it was all
Yeah.
great and happy. And George was commenting that you know he was always interested to see how they back up from that. You know, what's Aragorn's tax policy like? How does he recover from the fight that they just had? So he writes those kind of things. If he's thinking about it, he writes those kind of things. He tells, maybe not so much as granular details of fucking tax policy, but he doesn't just kind of like smooth it all out and say, oh, it'll be fine. So I really can't imagine that he would have done that. Would the North? I mean, why didn't Dawn and the Iron Island want to do it for a start? But why the North suddenly wanted to secede from Westeros?
From the rest. There's a big issue with that as well, because they all agreed that, oh well, kings will now be chosen and not blood right and all that shit. realistically, they then made themselves independent. So there is the possibility that a king or queen at some point wants to be king or queen of the 7 kingdoms, not the 6 kingdoms. So there's the possibility that that could create a stir.
I'm sure that's how it all started in the first place, wasn't it? They were all independent kingdoms.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was a Targaryen. Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was the one who decided Westeros needs one leader, and it to be a 7 kingdom. Yeah.
And he only achieved it because he had dragons as well.
Hmm.
He didn't have dragons. He wouldn't have achieved unification.
So speaking of them voting on kings, fuck that entire council, whatever they were, for tearing down Sam. Sam's got the right fucking idea, man. He said that. I'm like, yeah. Sam for the Iron Throne.
Nah, I cringed.
No, not Sam for the Iron Throne. No, Sam's idea for the Iron Throne. Not for Sam.
Sam gets it. Sam could rule.
No.
I didn't cringe. I liked him. Like, yeah, he gets it.
I agreed with his decision of a vote. I mean, that's, well, in part. But it's better than it being done by killing.
Yeah.
Well, this is all a happy ending, and I don't like it.
Well, I mean, just in general, I don't think it was all that happy. I think some characters got better endings than others. Some didn't get any ending at all. Just sort of like drifted off.
Walked into the woods.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess then, so, Bran is king. How did that happen?
Bran the Broken. What
Yeah.
a name.
Because Tyrion, despite being a prisoner and not allowed to speak, decided, fuck it, I'm going to speak for another 10 minutes, and I'm going to single-handedly decide the new monarch.
Yeah, this for being a prisoner that he's just brought over and is like, you aren't allowed to speak. Told him to shut up, and then suddenly he just takes command. He takes control of the situation and says, "Oh, Bran, yeah, Bran will be our king. He has a great story."
Yeah, because it's a great
Because it
policy.
was a great story.
It's a really good policy. Somebody who has the best stories deserves to be king.
He's been silent for the past 3 seasons. He wasn't even in an entire season.
Yeah,
I think it was series 5.
something like that, yeah.
He wasn't even in it at all. That's a great story.
I mean, it's just inconsistent as well, because not 2 episodes ago he was saying that I'm not actually Bran anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not Bran, I'm the Three-Eyed. So Bran's not king.
I'm the Three-Eyed Raven.
Three-Eyed Raven's king.
That's what bothers me so much about this final season it's just the inconsistencies. They will just change on a dime depending on what they want to serve the plot next, and it really bothers me. Like that with Bran, or like Jaime in the tent saying that he never really cared about the innocence of King's Landing, despite Jaime Lannister sacrificing his honor to save them all. And it's just like, no, fuck it.
On that note, that's probably the only point in that episode that I actually felt was done well. The final
That scene was
conversation
a
between
lovely scene.
Tyrion and Jaime was fantastic.
Other than Jaime uttering that line, it was a very good scene.
Yeah.
Possibly my favourite scene from this season. I think that's usurped Brienne getting knighted for me. Yeah, I did like that a lot. But yeah, it's been so inconsistent, down to like the armies and stuff like that. So the Dothraki and Unsullied, more than half got taken out at
They were
Winterfell.
wiped out, yeah.
But they're all there at King's Landing because, fuck it, they need to be. Characters can teleport just because. Fuck, we need them there now. Arya somehow got from the bottom of the stairs right to the top and next to Jon. Nobody stopped her. Just because she needed to be there.
Yeah, Grey Worm
She-
got to Daenerys before Jon did.
Yeah, Grey Worm teleported there. Yeah. Yeah, it's just insane. She left on a horse at the end of episode 5. Where was that?
But she didn't go anywhere. She obviously
She
stayed.
didn't go anywhere. She stayed right there. Oh my god! And like we said before, winter being inconsistent because sometimes it's sunny, sometimes it's ash, then suddenly Drogon's covered in a blanket of snow. He's been lying there that long.
Yeah.
So, I guess you mentioned the Arya. Arya's ending sucked. She didn't ultimately do an awful lot at the end though. Obviously she ended the long night, so that's kind of a lot. But she went to the keep with Sandor, with the Hound, and the Hound just gave one line to her, and she gave up all of her hopes of revenge just on the point there. Just turned, no, it's fine. You go and do it, and then wandered off. It's like, is that? Does her character development mean so very little? So, it's kind of like a Jamie moment, isn't it? Does everything that she's been through mean so very little that you can just turn it away?
Part would have actually made a little bit of sense if she just responded by "not today," because then she would have been talking about who she'd been. What do we say to the god of death? Not today. That would have made a little bit of sense for her, but just suddenly changing from being this, Arya is a badass and I'm going to turn today. You know what? No. I actually want to live. I don't want to kill this final person on my list. I will just turn around and go.
To be honest, it's even quite
Apart from
remarkable.
Ilan Payne.
Yeah.
He's still not living.
He's still alive somewhere. Well, maybe.
Yeah,
we don't know.
She never got him.
It's even quite remarkable that she's even there. That a story is left of her, because she decided independently that she was going to go down to King's Landing. It's like, after she ended the greatest threat to the world in episode 3, you would have thought, when they were all planning their attack, that they would have been just like, maybe we send Arya first, she can be someone else.
Let's
That'll work
distract
quite
everyone
well.
and
Yeah.
Arya sneaking in the back.
Yeah, we can... But they just kind of forgot about that.
Or
Conveniently forgot about it.
Tyrion could have been like, oh, well,
That's the
there's a
theme for this
secret
entire
entry.
season. isn't it?
Daenerys kind of forgot about the Iron Fleet, but they didn't forget about her. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck, no.
Yeah, they kind of forgot about a lot this season, didn't they?
Yeah.
They kind of forgot how to write every character. Or did they ever know? Did they ever really know how to write these characters?
I think they knew, in a sense, to write the big set piece characters, because they were doing set pieces. So they knew how to write Daenerys, because they just give her a few set pieces to work off. Because that tends to work for her. And the same with Jon. But when you have characters that are more about subtlety and more about influence rather than direct actions, guys like Tyrion, then no, they just... When was the last time Tyrion did anything other than like freeing Jaime, I suppose you could say, in episode 5? When was the last time he did anything? And I think I said that in the last episode as well.
Yeah,
did.
Tyrion sucked.
Didn't do anything. Didn't actually do
Nope.
anything.
He lost all his intelligence.
Yeah. So he's just set dressing.
Yeah.
And it's sort of the same with Davos, and sort of the same with Brienne, sort of the same with a bunch of other characters. It's just they were just there along for the journey rather than actually contributing in any way. And it was a shame because waste character,
There was a point in, I think it must have been start of episode 5, and it wouldn't have surprised me one little bit, but I was thinking possibly Tyrion was going to betray, not in the way that he did, but betray all of them, as in the ringing of the bells was actually something he discussed with Jaime off camera. Tell them to ring the bells, and it was a case of, well, they'll all put down their arms, and then when they do that, then we'll attack and we'll catch them off guard and something like that. But
There's
I
a
couldn't have
scene.
foreseen the way it played out.
There's a scene from season 2 or 3, the Battle of Blackwater, where Stannis' fleet are sailing into Blackwater Bay, and Davos is on board, and he's with his son. And as they're sailing in, Davos' son says, they're ringing the bells, they're welcoming the true king to the city. And Davos says, I've never known bells to mean surrender.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
And then he tells them to start playing the drums, because he's like, if they
Drown
play
it out.
music, we'll play music.
Yeah.
Literally a scene in this series,
Yeah.
and then suddenly bells mean surrender. It's just inconsistent. It's just anybody who's
And to even title the episode "The Bells" as well, it's like,
anybody who's got half an eye for these kind of things just must have been sacked or something, or let go a long time ago, because
Yeah.
clearly the the train was being driven by blind folk, like who just didn't care. They just
Yeah, there's been no eye for detail or subtlety. Especially when you see things like a Starbucks cup or a water bottle in the middle of these scenes. It's fucking insulting.
I think it's the least of the problems, those kind of things, personally.
It definitely is, but it's still like just another thing piled on top. And it's just like, fuck. It's like, it just feels like they don't give a shit at this point.
Yeah. So,
You know?
as I was saying, I guess Arya feel like somebody was writing fan fiction, like, and their favorite character was Arya. They were like, oh yeah, she'll be really cool. She'll appear here. She'll do this.
they loved Arya.
She'll be cool, and then she'll sail off into the west of Westeros because Arya's a well-known love of sailing. So she's really
I did look back at that
captured.
point. I was sort of thinking it was a bit out of the blue at the end. I did actually look back, and she did actually have a conversation about that, exactly the same words with.
She did. So
Was it the woman from the play when she was?
yeah, she did.
Was it a poisoner or something?
But that's the thing, is that it's not an element of a character.
No,
One throwaway line.
it's another one of those little tiny subtle,
Yeah.
pointless things that they've obviously put in for them to explain her ending
Yeah. It's
for
like
no reason whatsoever.
it's like going to the pub and asking where the bathroom is, and then like your ending is like, oh, he's forever in that bathroom. He's cleaning that bathroom. He asked for it once. That must be his heart's desire to be in that bathroom. It's like, no, like just a throwaway line.
Yeah.
No.
It's like you were saying, Danny, with Tyrion, and when he sat down to talk to Bran just before the battle,
Right.
and how pointless did that actually turn out? We were speculating, oh, it's because they're gonna figure something out. But
I
no,
was adamant that would play into the following episode. I really thought they'd hatched a plan.
Mm.
That something was going to happen in that Battle of Winterfell.
No, he's just
And they'd
impressing
come
him
up
with
with
his
something.
story.
That was all it was. That was all
his
it
great
served.
story. That's why he was made
Yeah.
Told him
king.
his story.
The best
Yeah.
story. It's like a Trump
Oh,
speech,
man.
isn't it? Oh, I've got the best stories. All the best stories. I'm the best at stories. Yeah. So there's a theory, and it's been a theory for a while. So Bran might end up on the throne in the books. Now, I've actually got it open in front of me. The theory is called Bran as the Fisher King, and the Fisher
Okay.
King was English and Welsh mythology about how a king was tied to the land, and that the state of the land mirrored the state of the king. So Bran being broken, Bran having no legs, essentially, the land that around him was broken as well.
Right.
So like the fates were tied together. So if it's following that, and apparently there's the thing saying like Bran in a certain language actually means king. Like the name actually means king, or
I
something
swear
like.
everyone's name in some language means king.
Yeah.
I swear it does.
Or some of the older versions of the Fisher King story identify the king as being called Bran the Blessed. So people are saying, that's how it's going to finish. But however he intended to write it, I'm certain it would make more sense than what we got there, because it was just like, yeah, he's got a good story. He's going to be king. Yay.
I like that nobody's disputed Tyrion's naming him Bran the Broken.
Yeah.
I'd prefer if you didn't.
Yeah.
Just Bran's fine.
Yeah.
Bran
I have
the
a
Legless.
I have a last name.
Yeah. Even Brandon, that'd be alright.
Bran the Broken.
But everybody
Bran the
voted as well.
Infertile or something like that, because
Yeah.
that's also a thing.
Everybody stepped in as well. They were like, no one disagreed. Tyrion's like, oh, he's
Yeah.
got a good story. He'll be good. And
Yeah.
why is everybody voting for him? They don't even know Bran. They've never met him. Like 8 to the 9.
No, Tyrion's the only one that knows the story. I mean, like, half of them that are sat there, like Robert Aaron, how the fuck does he know what his story is? He's not had the conversation.
Yeah, you have no idea.
But he still votes for him. Oh, the fat guy next to me voted. I'll vote with him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
New Lord of new guy from Dawn.
and then you've got John.
Yeah, we don't even know his name.
whose heritage is pretty much primed to be king, has been instrumental in like the entire story. And it's like, nah, we'll just exile. Exile sounds good for Johnny. He'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
It was
Even after
such
the
a betrayal
Unsullied
of
have
his
sailed for
character.
Nath, still.
Yeah,
They come back. No, John, come back. It's fine. They've gone.
yeah. Exile is.
He saved the North in the Battle of the Bastards. He saved fucking the world with the fight with the Night King. Alright, he did the final deed, but he was instrumental in that entire fight. He was. I mean,
maybe
they wouldn't
maybe
even
in the
got anywhere
build up,
close.
sure, but to getting people to where they needed to be, sure, but
yeah.
in the actual fight, he didn't do
No,
an
in the
awful lot.
fight himself, no. But still, obviously, he got Daenerys over for what was needed. He got well, it didn't play out to be any point at all, which was stupid as well. Let's go beyond the wall, get a walker, and bring him back to King's Landing. We'll show it. It did nothing. She wasn't going to come anyway. So you lost the dragon for nothing. Yeah, that was pointless too.
Well, there was a lot about John that ultimately was pointless. Like, his heritage meant nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Such a wasted plot point.
It was just,
The Night King being Targaryen also wasted.
yeah. Night
Was
King.
that a thing? Was the Night King Targaryen?
No, he's not.
Yes, he
Is
is.
that just more theories?
He's a Stark.
He didn't burn. He's Targaryen.
He's a Stark.
Is he a Stark?
Yeah.
He's
Based
not a
on what?
Stark. He's not a Stark.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, it's Ned. This is Ned's bastard that he didn't tell anyone about. And realistically, Jon Snow was the bastard that he then took in instead.
Yeah, he
I had a bastard, I got rid of it, but if I say it's this bastard, I'll hide that.
I know some
Nah.
theories pointed towards it being Bran the Builder,
Mm.
and that was where my theory came from, that Bran the Builder was also Bran.
It
Right.
still is Bran, yeah. Bran, the Night King, got eventually what he wanted because he's now on the throne.
So whatever it was, whoever it is, he was in the books at least. Then the Night King, which isn't the same character in the series, but he was the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and fell in love with a woman from beyond the wall who was pretty much she was pretty much a White Walker. Named himself King. King on the Wall, I think he called himself, or something like, or the Night's King. Ruled from the Night Fort, and it was an army of the King beyond the Wall at the time and the King in the North, who obviously was a Stark, who banded together to take him down. And the idea there was that it was likely that the Night King was a Stark because it was the King in the North's brother, or something like that. At least
Right.
that's the hint, is that the Starks are so intricately tied to the Night's Watch and to the First Men and to the White Walkers in general, that he was likely to be a Stark. So I guess if the Night's King was a character, then I mean, let's be honest as well. Like, the Targaryens were just a family from Valyria. They weren't a special family.
Yeah.
They were just one of... Valyria was essentially a country, and they were just one of the... I don't think they were even like a high-born family, as far as I'm aware. They were just a family. They weren't special. And the reason they left Valyria is because one of them had like a prophecy about the Doom. So they left Valyria in advance of it happening, and then shit went down.
Right.
But they only left Valyria like couple of hundred years before Aegon's conquest, like 100 years or 200 years, something like that. And the Night's King thing was supposed to happen 9,000 years ago. So to say that there was a Targaryen suddenly there is a bit of a stretch, you know. Obviously, there's a question mark as to why he didn't melt, but
Well, there's also the question: was he the
never going to get answered.
Night King, the one that we saw in the actual? They created the White Walkers, but was he actually the White Walker? You know, he might have been killed. I don't know.
It'd have to be, wouldn't it? The guy who was tied to the weirwood tree. That'd be far too much of a smoking gun for it not to actually be the Night's King.
Well, I don't know. It doesn't look the same. So
That they
It is
transformed.
it is the same actor.
It is the same actor, yeah.
Yeah.
But it'd be far too much of a smoking gun for it to not be him. And hearing the question,
again, this is
we're
speculation because
well-
this is all logical stuff.
well, this is the thing. So we're speculating, aren't we? We shouldn't have to.
It's the only fun we can have now.
We shouldn't fucking have to speculate about all this. We should have had answers.
Well, shift gears. I want to know what you thought of. I know what you thought, but I want to know what you thought of Daenerys' ultimate turn in episode 5.
That's what ruined it for me. That's the point where I just went, no, it's just not right at all. It's not in her character. It's against anything that she's been or said or done in any of the series. She's
I
always-
asked because there's been a lot of people defending it
yeah, is that
because of
along the lines
of the foreshadowing that's been done throughout each season.
the shadow of the dragon over King's Landing's tops, her visioning the sort of snow, but it's actually ash falling on King's Landing when she's walking up to the throne. And
Not just that, but like her spells of cruelty and things like she would. Greg gave me some examples, like she burned the witches in season 1. She didn't need to burn them, but she did.
yeah, the
And I suppose she
Dothraki
had a bit of a
warlords in the. In
and
the
I suppose
temple
that was a justified killing because she was a dick. She killed.
Yeah, that's how she got
Drogo
away
and
with it. But didn't Tyrion say that at the end? It was all justified because
Yeah.
I'm sure he was talking to Jon about it, wasn't he? He was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, she killed a bunch of warlords. She killed the slavers, but who cares because they're slavers? Who cares?"
Yeah.
About
She
a
said
bunch
like,
of
"I'll burn your
warlords."
cities."
Yeah.
Things of that nature. So there's been all those elements of foreshadowing throughout it, and yet it still came out of left field. It was still abrupt and rushed because she hadn't had that slow descent into it.
No, it needed more than 6 episodes for the series to do that
She
sort of
essentially
turn.
went from Breaker of Chains to
Mother of Dragon.
Mad Queen. You know.
Yeah.
And it was just that quick. She turned. So did Missandei, just as she died. That was another betrayal of character, I thought.
Yeah.
On her last spoken word was Dracarys, meaning burn them all, and that went against her character, in my opinion, too.
See, I don't necessarily agree that it went against the character, because I think there was this foreshadowing from the very first season where she's done questionable things, and like you were just saying with Tyrion, you're right that everything that she's done you could justify because they were bad people and they were doing bad things. But there was
Burned her
always
brother with the gold skull
yeah,
across the
And-
thing
and-
as well.
and
She just sat and watched that. She was
Yeah.
fine to.
and Viserys was a bad guy, but there was always that cruel streak in it, and people were always saying, "Oh, Targaryen heritage," and it absolutely was. It was Varys' quote was a good one, like every time a Targaryen is born, the realm holds its breath because it could just as easily be a mad
Well, it's a flip
Targaryen
of
as a
coin,
good
wasn't
Targaryen. Yeah.
Yeah, flips a coin.
Fine.
And so that's always been a thing, and obviously her dad was the Mad King. There's always been elements of her of being this kind of like having this cruel edge. But again, it's for me, and I sent you an article, didn't I, Danny, about somebody who'd written about it. I think he was writing after the 5th episode or something about her sort of descent or falling off a cliff. And what he was saying there is that in writing and in fiction and stuff, there isn't necessarily true or false, because everybody can always point to something and say, "Oh, well, that's foreshadowing or that's justification" or something like that. What there is true or false shouldn't really come into equation. It should be whether it feels right or wrong, if you know what I mean. Whether you feel comfortable with character doing this thing because it makes sense. So the issue with Daenerys is that she has had these moments throughout the series and they have shown it. However, she's been such a fan favourite for a long time. And clearly she's a favourite of the writers of the show because they have given these big set piece moments where she's done some like great thing, you know. And a lot of the times they've portrayed her as like a messiah, you know, like a messiah type character where people are bowing and trying to touch her, and it's like very bright and, you know, nice.
They've been really full on with that in the past.
Yeah.
Very heavy-handed.
So the juxtaposition,
Misa.
exactly.
Oh, that's
So the juxtaposition between her being this messianic character and her going off the deep end is really harsh. And whilst there was evidence, it didn't feel right, and it felt too abrupt. And I think it, like you said, if they'd spent more time with this descent and had it more gradual and whatever, then people would have accepted it more. But
Yeah.
as it
We
stands,
all saw it coming. We've all known that that's where she was going. It's
but
not a
only
new concept.
yeah, as it stands, it's just character assassination.
It's just the execution that was extremely poor.
yeah. I mean, it was everything in that series. Everything was too rushed. I mean, we have the battle for Winterfell, and then we realise at the start of the episode, oh, the second dragon's alive. Oh, cool. Well, she's got 2 dragons to go to King's Landing with. But no, instantly within about 20 minutes of that episode, the dragon's dead. So why don't you just kill it in the... Oh, because we might have another shock. We'll give you a shock out of the blue.
That's
Yeah,
another
but-
inconsistency. The dragon.
Yeah, the dragon just down. Because she then charged at the ships and shit herself and ran away. But they were all focused on her at that point. And then she just somehow manages to do exactly the same thing. And they get, what, maybe 1 bow to fire?
What you
And
mean
then
in the
all
sack
of them-
King's Landing?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then on
And
the
there were-
walls,
there were
like,
hundreds
none of them fire.
scorpions, Yeah.
And they're all fixed, pointing in one direction on the walls. None of them have got this ability to turn and fire over the city. They all point outwards. No one thought it would be a good idea to put this on a pivot.
Well, again, it's just kind of like the usefulness of dragons as another inconsistency.
Mhm.
Because in some fights, you know, they were getting sniped off, picked off, and in other fights, it's literally a WMD.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's whatever they need it to be in the moment. Like, shit,
But
we
we-
need the dragon to take out King's Landing now, so...
Yeah, but we mentioned that as well, the inconsistency with the dragon, like the power from the dragon. There was the episode where she was killing the slavers, and all the ships were outside bombarding. I think it was, I can't remember what the city was called, but they were all firing at the city, and then they were kind of talking on the hilltop.
Yeah.
And the dragon comes over, flies down with Daenerys on, and the 2 other dragons come out of the brick wall, and all 3 dragons take ages to destroy 1 ship. But then in this, she flies by, pop, 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 like left, right, and the entire ship just erupts.
Yeah.
But these are extremely bigger ships than what Slavers probably had.
Yeah.
Because this is the Ironborn ships. They've made these like huge ships, meant for fighting, and she obliterates them in
Yep.
a maximum of 2 minutes. The entire fleet was gone in 2 minutes, and then she just starts on the walls. And it's far too overpowered.
I
She
think-
can cut buildings in half now.
I think Danny's right though, is that that's just what they needed for the story. That's why they did it.
Yeah, that's why
Not
they did
not
it.
because it made
Absolutely.
sense, or not
Yeah.
because it felt natural. Is because they needed King's Landing to be destroyed.
It's insulting
So
as a
dragons,
viewer to see that.
the dragons suddenly capable of destroying things.
You said that if they've shown what their abilities are in previous seasons, those are the rules you've established.
Yeah.
Now you've told us that they are this strong, and then change it on a whim because they need to is insulting.
But yeah, I was very disappointed with Daenerys' story, just overall, because it just felt so rushed and ruined. And I feel sorry for the actress. I feel sorry for Emilia Clarke because she
Best season
Absolutely.
ever.
poured a lot into that role,
Man, you see that? That was so cringy, wasn't it?
and
Yeah,
she hates it. She's come out and
does.
she said she hates it. She was so upset with how her character ended.
I've not seen it yet, but I've heard Jason Momoa's had a had a dig at what they did to Coulter to her as well.
Oh,
I
so
got it
no, I haven't
on a
seen that.
video. I need to have a look at it. I've seen it mentioned, but I've not actually watched it yet.
I mean, the only of the major actors that's come out and sort of defended it was Sophie Turner.
Really?
Yeah, so she
Because it ended well for her.
exactly. Yeah, she got to be queen. It's alright for her.
She's the one who came out with it. All right.
Yeah.
So what has she said?
No, I think she would have, and I don't know what context the quotes was in, but she was like saying people are like whining, and I don't know if she was talking about her cast members or the fans. Presumably the
Right.
fans, like, but people are
guess.
whining. But and then
But Maisie Williams said that people will be disappointed at the end, and she wasn't fucking wrong.
yeah, it's. I mean,
Why would we
getting
be
on it.
disappointed? We shouldn't be disappointed.
Well, I can't remember if you mentioned this on the last podcast, Greg, or if you just told me in private. Was
That sounds like
Maisie's
we're in bed
reaction
together
when-
or something. Like, when we're in bed together now, let's
Not that
tell you in private.
no, not that time.
No.
Maisie's reaction to when she got the script and she was discussing it with her boyfriend or something, saying that people aren't going to be happy with this.
Yeah.
Was it you told me that?
It was, yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
if I said it on the last episode. I might have done. But yeah, and she was saying she told her boyfriend, and the boyfriend was about her killing the Night's King, and her boyfriend, his first reaction was like, should have been John though.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that.
It's like,
Yeah.
I think I might have seen it actually.
and that is people's first reaction, and I think that's the correct reaction because, you know, not to say that John had to be the one to do it, but they've put so much work in behind John being the one to do it. To just yank the rug from under you, the feet doesn't feel truthful to the story. It feels like a shock for the sake of a shock.
But yeah, that's pretty much what they've done.
No
They've
one saw
done-
that
so
coming.
it's another point of them trying to shock with an outcome, but the shock with the outcome on that instance was it was more of a surprise. Like, it's not understandable. It's shocking that you did that. Never
Yeah.
mind, it was shocking that it happened.
Yeah. I think I said
Different kind of shock.
again, I think I said it in the last podcast, is that people would be surprised if like Jesus came down from the sky and smoked everybody. That'd be a surprise. It wouldn't be a good one.
No, but
because
they
it'd
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
Not after seeing what we've seen now.
But what I'm trying to say is that it'd be unexpected. So if they're going for unexpected, then that's the kind of level of unexpected that
Yeah.
they've achieved. Is like Jesus appearing and killing everybody, but it don't feel true to the story.
They all
So-
charge into King's Landing, and then the Night King stood at the gate when they come back out. That would be surprising.
Yeah, so you're like, okay, so Arya killing the Night King didn't feel natural, and Daenerys' descent into madness didn't feel natural, and Bran being king didn't feel natural. And I'm sure if they'd spent a little bit more time on these things, they could have made it feel natural. They could have eased us into the story if George was still writing for the series, maybe. And
They could have for sure used a couple more seasons.
Yeah.
To really
Well,
flesh this out.
HBO wanted 10 seasons.
I don't understand why.
It was Dave and Dan that said they were only
Right.
going to do it in 8.
They've turned it down. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand why that's happened. I'll have to maybe have a look up to see what the story is there, but that just seems...
Star Wars? They've signed on to do other things.
Could also be that they knew they just couldn't. They just knew they couldn't stretch it out for that long. They know their limits, so that we got to wrap this up now.
Yeah, otherwise it'll be 3 seasons that no one likes, rather than just the one.
So I was thinking about the writing of this one, and I'm just throwing this out for debate, just to see what you guys think. Like, has this season necessarily been bad writing, or has it just been bad writing for this show? So if this was another show with this level of writing from the start, do you think that would be bad?
Yes.
No. If that season was the series on its own, and we hadn't had the character build up, and we hadn't had the things being set to be expected how it was going to end, then no, I think that would have been fine.
Another show with the pacing of this one would be fine.
If it was continuously that fast paced, and that's how it was, yes, that would have been fine. Because they've spent so much time building characters and setting scenes and developing everything in such detail for 5, 6 possible seasons, and then the ending just feels rushed. It stands out like you've just been punched in the face. It doesn't work. It just doesn't sit right.
Yeah,
and that's why it's different.
I disagree. I think there's no, for me, there's no circumstance that this season, the writing of this season, could be considered, no matter what program it was on, could be considered good writing. I think it made the analogy the other week that Game of Thrones has set such a high bar that this season's the first 3 episodes were not as good by Game of Thrones standards, but still really good by television standards.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the writing on that in that regard. I think it's everything but the writing is pulling it up. I think that the writing,
the costumes, the music,
exactly,
the visuals, that still, even with the terrible story, it was still well done.
Can't fault any of it. Can't fault it. The visual effects, the music, the acting, the set design, all of it. They were superb.
Yeah, everything.
It's not the actor's fault. They're just doing what they've been told to do.
They've done the best with what they had.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah,
sure.
everything but the acting, everything but the writing, sorry, has been a strength and has kept Game of Thrones as being at the top end of television. But the writing, I don't even know if it fits on the bottom end of television.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, it's hard to do those comparisons.
Emilia Clarke had some real shining moments in this season, I thought, especially in these last few episodes. I thought she acted really well. Her facial expressions when she was sat on that dragon were really good. As she was watching Missandei be executed, she really conveyed the emotion. I thought she was great.
It's all the more of a shame.
The tears and the soot on her face when she was about to burn them all.
Yeah, you see how
conflicted
she was.
You could see it just turn in the face. It was really well acted. Yeah, I agree.
I tell you, I really liked her performance just before she was killed. Because I'll tell you why I liked it, because it was different from how she'd been. She almost went back to an older version of herself. Like she was talking to Jon, really trying to convince him that what she was doing was right, and you can tell that she feels that what she's doing is right, completely. And she had this, I don't know, she was grinning. She was so happy with it. She had this sort of like giddiness to her, almost naivety, that reminded me of like an older version of her. In maybe a season 1, season 2 version of Dany, when she was just a little brighter and stuff. And I don't know if that's what they were going for, but
yeah.
And then and obviously that got capped off by her getting a knife in the chest.
And what a predictable thing that was as well.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you said you thought it was cliched.
Yeah, it was a shame. I feel the worst about Daenerys' ending over any of them, just because it feels like such a waste of a character that's been at the forefront of the series for forever, since it started.
Yeah,
it feels like a waste and a betrayal. I don't know.
Not only was her turning character abrupt, but so was her death, coming within 20 minutes of the finale.
Yeah, the final episode was so slow.
So it's like, where does it go from here? You know.
That was. It was strange because in any sort of aspect, really, the final episode was more at a pace of the previous seasons. We'd been extremely fast into getting to episode 6, but then suddenly we've got this really slow. Not very much happens. Alright, she dies, the dragon flies away, and then everyone decides to pick a king. That's an hour and a half.
Dragon flies away after displaying an absolutely immense level of intellect for a dragon.
Yeah.
I mean, either.
I like that.
So it's he burns down the throne because he can see that that's the problem here.
Yeah.
Or he sees his mother on the floor with a blade in her chest and looks at the chair that's made out of blades and go, "It was the fucking chair that did it."
She sat on it.
I think they write these scenes before they get to these scenes, if you know what I mean. Like, they think of a good moment. Oh, that'll be cool. Drogon burns and melts the Iron Throne. But then they're like, how do we get there? and then they rush, they get in there, and it doesn't make sense, and it's like, what? He understood the political weight of the Iron Throne, and that this was a symbol of power, and it was power that drove Daenerys mad. It's like, what? It's like 80% of the audience doesn't understand that, let alone a dragon. Like, how?
Well, it might not even be that. It might just be the case that he doesn't want to kill a Targaryen, because he's already recognised that Jon was in previous episodes.
There was no
And
there was
he
no
doesn't wanna
point
kill
there
them.
where I was thinking Jon was gonna die. Not at all.
No,
Yeah.
and it's. I mean, maybe he wanted to. Maybe he wanted to, but then it's a case of, well, I'll just have to take my fucking bent anger on that bastard in chair.
Yeah.
Like he scream at Jon, but then and fire it off at the side because he really wanted to, but decided not to.
What noise did he make then, Ben?
I don't know, something strange.
Oh, okay.
Or angry.
I'm
Grr.
angry. Meow.
Yeah, so that happened, and then it jumps forward a few weeks. So now John's a prisoner and stuff, and that marks twice this season that I think they've shown something off screen which I felt should have been shown. The first being the Stark's reaction to finding out John's parentage.
Yeah,
that was a misstep in my opinion,
yeah, that definitely should have been shown.
and I think we should have seen what happened instead of watching, I don't know, another 40 minutes of people talking and thinking and it being very slow.
Who
Oh,
came
no.
into the room and who found the pool of blood on the floor?
Yeah.
No Daenerys. And what did they do with Jon at that point?
It says to me that John just openly and willingly told him. Yeah, it was me.
Yeah,
I
he
did
walked. Yeah, it could have been
he-
anyone.
he could have
He
been-
walked back down and was like, "Yeah, it was me."
Yeah, it could have been. Everybody burst in there. He's like, "Where's Daenerys?" And you're like, "Daenerys who? Who? What?" It's like,
Yeah, he could have said anything.
I
You're
don't-
not going to believe it. The dragon jumped up here.
Yeah.
He fucking stood on her.
I don't see a Daenerys here. I don't know what you're on about. What do you mean?
It's Tyrion as well. I mean, Tyrion's the one who persuaded him to do it
Yeah.
and sort of talked him into it. He was fighting his own emotions, but he kind of cemented that do what you need to, sort of. And then he does it, and then he doesn't even have any sort of balls to try and rectify
Yeah.
Jon's situation.
No defending him whatsoever. Everybody fucking
No,
turned.
nah,
on him.
Bran's
Brad's
the
got a better.
king.
Brad's got a better story. That's why.
Man, fuck Tyrion in this season, seriously.
Jon died. He's got a better story straight away.
They made him into such
Yeah.
a shit character.
Why did Jon come back from the dead? What relevance did that have?
None of it mattered.
Why did you have to
To
bring him back?
Battle of the Bastards. That's probably about it. But then even then, that was Sansa.
Why did the Lord of Light bring him back?
Yeah. What relevance does any of that have? I suppose
To kill Daenerys. That's maybe what he was brought back for.
this is the thing: is that he's the closest to Azor Ahai we get her, and it's a really shit closure on that prophecy and of that thread. And it's a shame
Yeah, it is.
that
It's just so
kind of
unfulfilling.
closes. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. Not only does that mean nothing for Jon, his parentage, bringing him back from the dead, but
Yeah.
he was just written so poorly in last season. Like you said it about him at the beginning of the season. You said to me that he's basically just a cheerleader for Daenerys now, and that's totally what he has been.
That's all he was.
That's all he's been in this last season.
I love you. You're my queen.
You are my queen.
And that's it.
Always. That's all he's fucking done. That's all he said.
Yeah.
He's had like 2 lines he's just repeated for the entire season. It's just a kick in the teeth, man.
I just don't think they could write him. At a certain point,
No.
they couldn't write his motivations and his actions very well anymore, so
Yeah.
he became one-dimensional, I guess. And it's such an unrewarding ending for him. Like, of all he's gone through, of all the trouble, of all the hardship, that he gets banished. And I guess you could turn around and say, oh, you know, he was always happiest when he was free and all this kind of
Beyond the wall.
being with the free folk, kind of like he never needed to be a kneeler ever again. So you could sort of reason that. But yeah, it's just massively unrewarding for him. Like, why is there even a Night's Watch in the first place at this point?
No.
Yeah.
Well,
That
he's
was my
the
first
only
thought
one.
seeing Sam on that council. I thought, oh well, I guess that makes sense because there's no need for a Night's Watch anymore, even though he's still wearing the whole garb.
Yeah.
And then then like a few scenes later, John said my exact line. Oh, is there still a Night's Watch?
Yeah.
I didn't know there was a Night's Watch. Yeah.
And that's the thing, is just it needed it just needed something that it doesn't have to be a happy ever after ending. I'd be disappointed if it was a happy ever after ending for everybody. But it needed to feel like the ending was justified and was for the reader it was like a catharsis, where you feel satisfied with what's going on. You kind of like, okay, this is closure. And I don't think Jon's ending provided any closure. I don't think Arya's ending provided any closure. I certainly don't think Daenerys' ending provided any closure. And Bran's ending was just more questions than answers, really.
People are saying it's similar to the way that Lord of the Rings ended. It's we're all sat on the pier, saying goodbye to everyone. He gets on a boat and sails away. They're all going after a symbol. The symbol is the ring. The symbol is the throne. Both of them burn with the person who wants them so much, Smeagol and Daenerys. It's got some similarities. I can see it overall.
It worries me that the book ending is going to be similar to this. I saw George Martin say that he imagines it will be similar, given what he's spoken to D&D about.
I've not seen that. I heard it was different. It was yes but no, but yes but no, but yes but no was the words he used.
Yeah.
Right.
He came out with a blog post like yesterday or the day before to that effect.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah. Yeah.
Essentially saying that he's the ending point of some of the characters. So I do think Bran's probably going to be king at the end of it. So that's one of the yes bits. But I think how we get to him being king will be very different.
But a more natural progression.
Yeah.
And
I think this.
And even Bran being on the throne shouldn't matter all that much anyway, because it should never matter who's on that throne.
No.
Yeah. In the books, he might not be a fucking dude who just sits there going, "I'm the three-eyed raven." He might be actually have something to him, uses his powers, and actually uses some foresight or whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and
he
turns the tide in something. But
he
in
isn't
this, he's just
in the books.
no. What?
He isn't the three-eyed raven.
He hasn't reached that yet.
No,
Not yet.
he's sat under the tree in beyond the wall with Bloodraven, yeah, and Mira and Georgian.
Yeah. So has Hodor died in the books yet?
No.
Okay.
I imagine he will, though.
I would expect in a similar sort of way, to be honest. It was quite soon after.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty accurate, and it was a good ending for him as well.
Yeah, it was.
That was a very good.
That was
one.
really good.
It's the one thing I'm still really enthusiastic about the books for, is that I'm confident that it can be done so much better in the books, and we're going to get so many more answers in the books. Like, we're going to get an answer, at least somewhat, to what the fuck was going on with the Long Night, and we'll get an answer at least somewhat to, what the fuck's going on with Jon's parentage, and what the fuck's going on with this, and whatever else. There's a lot we can expect from these books, and he's commented so frequently about these areas that if he does finish it, he will give us some answers. He can't not after the comments that he's done.
Yeah.
But it is a big if as to whether he finishes the books, because
I'm gonna have to start to read them.
You are.
I'm only going to read them if they get the other ones written. I've said that. I can't get.
To get finished.
Yeah, I can't read the books and then stop, and then only thing I can think of is this ending. I'll have to have the true ending, the way it was meant to be.
I don't know. I think you can read all of the books now and say it takes you 6 months to read them. Then we might have a book coming out soon. Fingers crossed, maybe.
He did say he was writing. He did say he's still writing, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Oh,
He said he was. I actually heard he was doing like both at the same time, sort of thing. They were sort of both being written,
Jesus.
but
Well, he released an encyclopedia sort of thing recently called Fire and Blood, which is a history of the Targaryens. So I presume he was writing that for a little while, and then he's gone back to writing Winds of Winter. So
Speaking of his blog, by the
Yeah.
way, did you see the part where he mentioned working in Japan on a video game?
yeah,
no.
Yeah, he said he's consulted on a video game in Japan, and that coincides with rumors from the past like month or so that he's been working with From Software, the developers of Dark Souls,
oh god,
on a Game of Thrones inspired open world RPG.
that'd be amazing. I'd love that.
Yeah,
Would you
does
want it
sound
to
amazing.
be? Would you want it to be set in the Game of Thrones world though?
No, it's not. It's not set in Game of Thrones, but
Just
a Game of
inspired.
Thrones inspired by yeah.
That's better. Yeah, I'd prefer.
And I think
I'd prefer
that's
that.
a match made in heaven. Miyazaki and George Martin, their level of subtlety in writing is just fucking A.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Wow,
Yeah,
that'd be special.
absolutely.
But yeah, so I guess just to wrap up a little bit there, if you could rate the last episode out of 10, then rate the season out of 10, and then rate the series out of 10,
Ooh.
that'd be quite hard.
Easy.
Go on, man.
Final episode 3.
Okay.
Out of 10.
Mm.
Series 6.
Season, you mean?
Sorry, yeah. The season 6. The series would have been high 9s. It's now been dragged to 7.5, 8.
That's a big drop.
It is.
That's a real big drop.
It is. But then again, you can't have an unfinished ending. If everything's built up to shatter at the end, then what's the point?
That's brutal. I wasn't going to be that harsh.
Well, go on. What's yours then?
So I think last episode I'd probably say 3, 3, 4-ish, same as Ben. Season 4. Series still high 8s, 9 maybe. I don't think that me to coin a phrase from Stannis, I don't think the bad washes out the good, or the good washes out the bad. So I just think whilst this end has been really, it's been poor, let's be honest. Whilst it's been really poor, I don't think it ruins or tarnishes how good the first 5 seasons or so were.
Yeah.
And they were really good, like really.
They were,
damn
yeah,
good.
they were. They really were.
Um,
And there was a phrase, there was a like a meme I saw the other day, and it's stuck with me ever since. And it like summarizes the ending, and it's Arya goes west, Jon goes north, Drogon goes east, and the show goes south. And I can't think of any other way to summarize that final series. It actually upsets me.
Yeah, like as I said before, it's heartbreaking. So I'll give my rating. So I think finale, I think I give it a 2.
It was bad.
I think I'd give the season a 5. No, maybe less, maybe a 4. Yeah, I think I'd go 4 in fact. And the series as a whole, I think I'd give it an 8.
so it's interesting. I mean, we're not a million miles off with all of our votes there, but it's interesting to
No.
see how we all,
It's affected the overall.
but we all come from like very different angles on this story.
Sure.
Like me as a book reader, who I think have been quite critical of the series. Ben as the non-book reader, who's historically been enjoying it far more than I have, and then you, I guess, Danny, who's more middle ground.
Yeah. I'm a series watcher, but I know plenty of book stuff. I mean, I've read some of the first book, but I've spent plenty of time reading through the wiki and other people's theories and things like that. So I have a fairly decent understanding of what's going on in the book. So I do lie somewhere in the middle of the two of you.
Yeah, and it's weird to see how, again, I suppose just from the last episode where Ben was still very hopeful, and like I think no one, whilst we might have disagreed, I didn't hope that you were wrong. I hope that you were right. Like I wanted it to be
Yeah.
better. I just didn't think it would be. It's weird to see how even a lot of die-hard fans have turned on it.
Yeah.
And it's just soured the experience for them entirely. And I think it's not only is the series disappointing, that's such a shame as well.
Yeah.
That this is what we get left with.
It's a shame because it has been a wonderful series, hasn't it? There's been nothing quite like it.
Yeah, like
Especially,
8 years, man.
yeah, it's been such a fantastic journey. I've never seen writing like it, and it's been great. I didn't get into it initially either. It took me a while.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a good while. I don't think even after the first season, I think it took me somewhere between in the middle of season 2, I think, to really get into it, get into the characters, remember everyone's fucking names, because that took me a while.
I joined it about series 4. Like,
I've just never been a
binge-watched
fantasy
one
fan.
before.
Yeah, I've just never been a big into fantasy.
Mm.
Like, I'm not really a fan of Lord of the Rings. I found them pretty boring and stuff. So yeah, it took me a while to get into this show, but once I did, and around season 3 when I really got into it, and then I went back and rewatched from the start again. It's been a great show, and I've enjoyed it a lot. It's such a shame to see how it's gone, how it's fallen. Heartbreaking.
Still a little bit of hope for the books. Still a little bit of hope to see something better, to see something more
Mhm.
expansive and better explained and whatever, but it's going to be a long wait, I think. I don't think it's coming this year.
I hope these spin-off shows can be decent.
So that I guess that's a point that one of the spin-offs that they're going to do is about the Long Night, the first one.
Okay.
So maybe we'll get more explanation there, but we're going to have to
Original
wait
Night.
years to.
So what you're saying is we've finished with this, but any of the plot holes that they've now left open or unexplained, we have to wait for these new shows to
Yeah,
answer them in the past or in the future.
yeah, which is just fucking madness. Let's be brutally honest.
It is.
Do you think we're going to get a spin-off of Ayu's Adventures?
Oh yeah.
God, I hope
That's
not.
that's
Do you really think that?
that's exactly what's going to happen. I don't want it to,
No.
but that is going to happen.
Yeah, I expect we'll
What's
see
west
a.
of Westeros?
I expect we'll see a couple of
Don't know.
spin-offs. I don't think all the
Yeah.
ones that are in production are gonna get, bought and run. But I imagine we'll see at least a couple of them. I don't imagine the quality will be better than what we've seen on general for Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But I think they'll probably be. I'll be watching them, regardless.
How long before the inevitable reboot do you think?
I hope it never happens.
But it will.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe they'll finish it more related to what the book does when he actually finishes his book,
Yeah.
and maybe they'll do maybe 6, 7, and 8
Because isn't
again.
Lord of the Rings getting its TV show?
Set in a
There
very
is a-
different world.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Oh, it's not a
Story.
retelling of it. Okay.
No.
No. It's the same kind of thing. So the TV show The Long Night again is set thousands of years,
Yeah.
and the Lord of the Rings thing is set thousands of years before
Okay.
the Lord of the Rings that we're
It's
familiar with.
almost like Star Wars. It's another galaxy far,
Yeah.
far away.
Yeah.
Sure.
Tolkien wrote
I'm anticipating
thousands of years
about
worth of history.
right. I'm anticipating around 25, 30 years until we get another one.
But the whole Game of Thrones is written.
Yeah, another like I hope a series, A Song of Ice and Fire, the show,
Yeah, maybe.
and that's
But I
about
mean-
it's all right. We could have we could have John play Ned Stark.
Yeah.
He'd be about the right age for it.
Would you want
That'd be a nice passing of the torch moment.
so that a lot of people have come out with this petition asking them to remake the final season,
Oh man.
which is let's
It's picking up some steam, in fairness.
right.
It's-
Like, my thoughts on that aside, would you actually want them to do it?
No.
Don't know.
Don't know. See, I wouldn't want them to do it.
Probably.
As much as I dislike this, I wouldn't want them to do it because they've still not got book material to work from.
Yeah, I don't think they have the ability to tell it right.
Exactly. Yeah, I really don't think. I
No,
don't think
but-
they're gonna do it.
All right,
Remember the job.
rephrase. Not necessarily redo as in redo. It will be a redo, but more sort of finish the story more as if it was written. Sort of
Sounds
scrap.
like a redo.
No, but that's a redo would be redo the entire thing, but it would just be sort of fix the remainder, the outcome in a sense, not everything. Just create an ending that makes sense.
They'd need so many more hours to do that, though. They can't just do that, and they can't just. I don't think they can just recreate the finale.
No,
And
no,
that-
no,
and
no,
I've
no.
already
That's not what I'm
wrapped
saying. No. I would like season 8 won't be happening. Like it will just stop from 8. Like 7 will be where they're up to, and then it's maybe 3 seasons created. You could even create it as a different company. It might not even be HBO. Someone else does it, and they just go, right, this is the base point. These are my characters. Here's 8, 9, and 10. But realistically, for them, it's 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
Some
See, for me, I wouldn't want them to start with just this season. If I honestly had to say that they had to go and do it, I'd say that they should remake last season as well. Because
Nah, see, I-
they've rushed us into this avenue of season 8 so quickly, and they've cut out so many characters, and they've been doing that for quite some time. You know, they've always been trying to chop and narrow it down for quite a while now.
No, but the interesting thing is, so the only thing that's forced them into this situation is because the wall comes down at the end of season 7, and therefore that means that the long night must happen. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Yeah, but
soon,
even the
'cause-
way that came down, it was.
No, I
shit.
know. So that's the potential problem. So realistically, you could dock off the last episode of season 7 and play it out a bit more. You could have more of the, well, it didn't go to plan in King's Landing. Right, we're going to hash it out. We'll hash it out. That fight is obviously going to happen, but they're not coming down yet. Yeah.
At this
I don't-
point, again, we're just kind of speculating for the sake of speculating.
It's not going to happen. Like you say, it's going to be at least 30 years or something before they do
Uh-huh.
another related series. Even no matter how many votes you get, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a shame how this has gone. Such a fantastic show. It ends. Just fizzles out, not with a bang, but with a whimper.